They say, a mother's love is a gentle thing, a soft cradle in a harsh world. But mine was a blade. It was forged in the fire of loss, sharpened on the stone of adversity, and wielded with the cold, patient precision of a master strategist. With it, I carved a throne for my son from the very heart of a kingdom determined to deny him. My story begins not with a crown, but with a cage. I was born Lady Eleanor Vance in 1443, a whisper of royal blood in my veins, but a flawed whisper. Our line was deemed illegitimate for the throne, a technicality that made me a valuable piece in the great, bloody game of power, but never a player. I was a prize to be won, a contract to be signed. I was first married at the age of 6, a solemn child bride in a world of giants. By 12, I was a widow, and at 13, I was a mother. The birth of my son Arthur was a battle I nearly lost. It tore my body apart, leaving me scarred and unable to bear another child. As I held him, so small and fragile, I knew he was my only one, my alpha and my omega, my entire world, my singular, all-consuming purpose. He was not just my son, he was my vow. The kingdom was fractured, torn apart by the wars of the emblems, a brutal conflict between the House of Stirling and my own distant kin. When King Richard IV of the House of Stirling seized power, he saw the potential threat in my son's lineage. However faint, Arthur was ripped from my arms when he was just a boy, taken to be raised in the court of my enemies, a gilded hostage meant to ensure my compliance. For 14 years, I did not see him. 14 years of silence, of letters that may or may not have reached him, of nights spent staring into the darkness, picturing the face of a son I no longer recognized. The world saw a quiet, pious lady, twice widowed, making sensible marriages to secure her own safety. They saw my union with the powerful and politically ambiguous Lord Thomas Cromwell as a pragmatic move for a woman alone. They did not see the truth. Each marriage, each alliance, each curtsy and polite smile was a move on a chessboard only I could see. Lord Cromwell was not my protector. He was my greatest strategic asset, a man whose loyalty was to survival, and I would show him that our survival was tied to my son's rise. While I moved in the shadows of the Stirling court, a ghost in my own life, the kingdom groaned under King Richard's rule. Whispers grew of his cruelty, especially after his 2 young nephews, the Stirling princes, vanished within the stone walls of the great London fortress. Their mother, the formidable Queen Isabella Stirling, was my sworn enemy, the matriarch of the house that had taken my son. But in her grief, I saw an opportunity, a desperate, audacious, and brilliant opportunity. I sought a secret meeting, in a quiet chapel, cloaked in shadow and suspicion. Two mothers who should have been mortal enemies met. I looked into the eyes of a woman who had lost her sons and proposed a future where neither of us would have to lose anything more. I offered her a pact. My son, Arthur, would return from his long exile, claim the throne, and unite our warring houses by marrying her eldest daughter, the beautiful Princess Catherine Stirling. We would weave our families together so tightly that the walls would be strangled in their embrace. That night, 2 mothers, driven by love and loss, plotted the end of a war and the birth of a dynasty. The plan was set in motion. Years of secret correspondence, of gold smuggled across the sea, and of promises whispered in dark corridors, culminated in Arthur's return. He landed on our shores with a small, hopeful army. The final confrontation was set for a damp, grey morning at Redwater Field. My entire life, every sacrifice, every tear, every calculated move, came down to this single day. I was miles away, locked in prayer, but my will was on that battlefield. The fighting was fierce, a maelstrom of steel and mud. Arthur's forces were on the brink of collapse, and then came the moment I had spent a decade planning for. My husband, Lord Thomas Cromwell, sat on a nearby hill with his vast army, uncommitted, watching the ebb and flow of battle like a hawk. He was the kingmaker. Both sides had pleaded for his support, but it was my voice, my influence, my years of patient persuasion that echoed in his mind. As Arthur's standard began to fall, Lord Cromwell gave the order. His army surged down the hill, not in support of the reigning King Richard, but in a devastating flanking maneuver that shattered the Stirling lines. The king was slain, and my son, my Arthur, stood victorious upon the field. He was no longer Arthur Vance, the exiled boy. He was King Arthur I. In an instant, I was transformed. I was no longer a pawn. I was the king's mother, the most powerful and revered woman in the realm. My son, now my king, never made a major decision without seeking my counsel. I had his ear, his trust, and his love. Together, we healed the kingdom. We united the warring emblems into a new symbol for our house, the Vance dynasty. But my ambition was not merely for power. It was for legacy. I used my influence and wealth to found great colleges at the universities, to build chapels, to ensure that the future I had fought for would be one of knowledge and enlightenment, not just of swords and shields. I had built a new world for my son. For over 2 decades, I watched him rule, watched him build the nation I had dreamed of. He was a good king, a wise ruler, and a loving father. He gave me the grandchildren I was never able to have myself. My life's work was complete. Then, in the spring of 1509, after a short illness, my son, my king, my entire world, died. The great anchor of my life had come loose. The fire that had burned in me for so long, that had driven me through loss and despair, began to fade. My purpose was fulfilled. Just a few months later, my weary heart finally gave out. I died not as a queen, for I never wore the crown. I died as something far greater. I was the architect of an age, the mother who built a dynasty. My love was a blade, yes, and with it, I did not cut down. I carved out a future. I built a legacy, and it will endure. Thank you for watching. If you were moved by this story, please like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you in the next one.